What if America didn't lose its factories by accident, but through a financial trap designed to make collapse profitable? America didn't lose manufacturing. It sold it, not to China, not to globalization, not to automation, but to Wall Street. For 40 years, politicians told Americans, manufacturing is declining because other countries make things cheaper. That was the distraction. The real truth? America stopped making things the moment making money became more profitable than making products. In the 1980s, financialization replaced manufacturing as America's engine. And overnight, factories didn't just close, they were executed. Factories, because the new system rewarded layoffs, offshoring, outsourcing, debt-fueled buybacks, cheap imports, corporate consolidation, not productivity, not workers, not national strength. The middle class didn't collapse by accident. It was collateral damage in a financial revolution built on debt, leverage, and shareholder greed. Factories didn't move overseas. They were pushed overseas by a system that discovered there's more profit in destroying an industry than running one. And that decision reshaped the entire U.S. economy, from wages to inflation to national security. Factories. The death of American manufacturing has an exact date, December 11, 2001. That was the day China entered the World Trade Organization. But here's the truth nobody dares to say. China didn't steal U.S. manufacturing. U.S. corporations voluntarily handed it over. Why? Because under WTO rules, zero tariff imports, unrestricted offshoring, global supply chains, dirt-cheap labor, no environmental compliance, no unions. Government subsidies created a paradise for corporations and a nightmare for American workers. The result? Within 24 months, the U.S. lost 2.7 million manufacturing jobs, 50,000 factories, entire industries, electronics, steel, apparel, tools, microchips. Not because China was better, but because the U.S. financially incentivized CEOs to abandon domestic production. For every factory closed, Wall Street rewarded companies with rising share prices, massive bonuses, lower costs, bigger quarterly profits. It wasn't competition. It was betrayal, packaged as globalization. If you want to understand why nothing is made in America, you only need one number, 40%. Today, 40% of corporate profits in the United States come from the financial sector, not manufacturing, not technology, not innovation. Finance became America's dominant industry, and when finance dominates, manufacturing dies. Wall Street didn't just influence corporations, it took over their decision-making entirely. It rewarded leverage over labor, debt over development, buybacks over production, speculation over skill. Manufacturing requires workers, training, machinery, supply chains, long-term investment. Wall Street requires none of that. Why spend 10 years building factories when you can make the same money in 10 minutes trading derivatives? This wasn't globalization. This was financial cannibalism. The U.S. didn't lose manufacturing because it couldn't compete. It lost because the financial sector devoured the industrial one. Every politician promises the same solution: bring back tariffs, bring back jobs. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Tariffs can't save American manufacturing because the supply chains no longer exist. You can slap tariffs on China. You can slap tariffs on imports. But the factories that made electronics, appliances, clothing, microchips, metals, rare earth components, pharmaceuticals don't exist in America anymore. And even worse, the skills don't exist either. The U.S. let tool making, machining, chip fabrication, advanced metallurgy, precision engineering, robotics assembly erode for 30 years. You can't tariff your way back to a workforce that no longer exists. Tariffs don't rebuild supply chains. Tariffs don't retrain workers. Tariffs don't manufacture microchips. Tariffs don't rebuild 40,000 lost factories. America outsourced not just jobs, it outsourced capabilities. Capabilities that take decades to rebuild. This is why nothing is made in America anymore. The system that allowed the outsourcing is the system that still runs the economy. America doesn't have a trade deficit. America has a dependency disorder. For 48 straight years, the United States has imported more than it exported, every single year since 1975. Most countries would collapse under this. But America didn't collapse, because it found a loophole. Pay for imports with dollars, not goods. China sends products. Mexico sends products. Vietnam sends products. India sends products. And America sends paper. Paper backed by debt. Debt backed by nothing but faith. In 2023, the U.S. trade deficit hit $1.17 trillion, the largest of any nation in modern history. Here's the part no politician ever admits. The U.S. can't bring manufacturing home because it cannot afford to lose the cheap imports, keeping inflation from detonating. Import dependency isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. Something much darker happened between 1980 and today, a quiet corporate coup that rewired the entire U.S. economy. In 1980, manufacturing accounted for 25% of U.S. GDP. Today, just 10%. What replaced it? Finance, debt, speculation, share buybacks. Wall Street discovered something ruthless. Why build factories when we can extract profit faster by financial engineering? So they pushed companies to no factories. Factories. Move production offshore. Cut wages. Fire workers. Maximize shareholder value. The result? CEO pay exploded 1,400%. Worker wages grew 18%. Corporate profits hit record highs. The U.S. became the world's largest importer of goods and the world's largest exporter of dollars. This wasn't globalization. This was a hostile takeover of the real economy by financial elites, and it murdered American manufacturing. Between 2001 and 2016, something devastating happened. 3.7 million American manufacturing jobs vanished. Not because Americans got lazy, not because technology replaced them, not because demand collapsed. They disappeared because of one event: China joining the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2001. Economists call it the China shock. Politicians call it free trade. Workers call it the day my factory closed. Here's the truth. Entire towns collapsed. Wages froze for 25 years. Suicide rates spiked in factory counties. Life expectancy declined in working-class regions. China became the world's factory. America became the world's consumer. And Wall Street applauded, because every job lost was seen as a cost saved, and every factory closed was seen as profit unlocked. This wasn't a trade partnership. This was economic disarmament. When tariffs returned in 2018, Americans believed something hopeful. Finally, manufacturing will come home. But here's the brutal truth. Tariffs didn't bring factories back. They raised prices instead. And they exposed just how dependent America is on foreign production. Why didn't tariffs work? Because you cannot tariff your way out of dependency. America's supply chain is no longer American. 92% of antibiotics used in the U.S. come from China. 70% of semiconductors come from Taiwan, South Korea. 97% of rare earth minerals come from China. 80% of solar panels come from Southeast Asia. Even U.S. manufactured goods contain foreign parts. Tariffs don't revive industries that no longer exist. You can't tariff a factory back into existence. The politicians sold hope. The corporations sold slogans. But the truth is simple. America didn't lose manufacturing because of unfair trade. America lost manufacturing because the U.S. economy is now engineered to prioritize finance over production, debt over labor, consumption over creation, and tariffs can't reverse a redesign of the entire system. America didn't lose manufacturing because other countries were better. It lost manufacturing because CEOs discovered something better than innovation: cheap labor, real cheap. Because here's the truth no politician ever says out loud. America didn't outsource jobs, it outsourced wages. From the 1980s to the 2000s, U.S. factory worker, $22 to $27 hour plus benefits. China factory worker, $0.80 per hour. Mexico, $2 to $3 per hour. Indonesia, Vietnam, 40 cents to 70 cents hour. The math was brutal, and CEOs loved it. Then came the policy that sealed the deal. Permanent Normal Trade Relations, PNTR, with China, passed in 2000. That single decision sent 2.8 million U.S. manufacturing jobs overseas, shut down 67,000-plus factories, created the China shock that wiped out entire towns, turned Wall Street into a global outsourcing machine. This wasn't a mistake. It was a design. A design that replaced American workers with cheaper humans. And the big lie? Offshoring makes products cheaper. No, offshoring made profits bigger, while American living standards collapsed. This is when America stopped making things and started importing its future. Manufacturing didn't die because workers failed. Manufacturing died because Wall Street changed the rules of the game. Before the 1980s, American companies had one mission: make great products. But after financial deregulation, the mission changed: maximize shareholder value at any cost. Suddenly, R&D didn't matter. Long-term planning didn't matter. American workers didn't matter. Only one metric mattered: quarterly profit. And outsourcing became the fastest way to fake growth. This is how it worked. Fire thousands of U.S. workers, move production overseas, slash costs, report record profits, watch stock price skyrocket, executives cash out millions in bonuses. It wasn't efficiency. It was financial engineering. IBM, AT&T, GE, Boeing, Levi's, Whirlpool, Caterpillar, Dell, Apple. All of them chased one thing: cheap labor plus cheap compliance plus cheap everything. America didn't lose manufacturing. Wall Street sold it. And here's what no one tells you. The U.S. still builds things, just not in America. Factories operate today under American logos, but on foreign soil, with foreign workers and foreign supply chains. Your iPhone? Chinese supply chain. Your clothes? Vietnamese and Bangladeshi supply chains. Your appliances? Mexico. Your semiconductors? Taiwan. South Korea. America still designs the future. It just refuses to build it. When America outsourced manufacturing, it created a monster. The largest trade deficit in human history. Year after year, the U.S. imports more than it exports, and the gap keeps growing. 2023 trade deficit, $951 billion. 40-year cumulative deficit, over $18 trillion. This means one thing: America buys the world's products, but the world buys America's debt. China buys U.S. treasuries. Japan buys U.S. treasuries. Saudi Arabia buys U.S. treasuries. Even countries America sanctions buy U.S. treasuries. Because America sends dollars out, and the world sends them back. This is the real engine of the U.S. economy. Import everything. Borrow the difference. Hope nothing breaks. But something is breaking. The U.S. can't afford a manufacturing reboot. It can't pay for it. It can't staff it. It can't rebuild supply chains it abandoned for 40 years. A $1 trillion trade deficit isn't just an economic statistic. It's the price of hollowing out a nation. Politicians made you believe one thing. We'll bring manufacturing back with tariffs. That was the lie. Here's the truth. Tariffs don't rebuild supply chains. They only make products more expensive. Why? Because America no longer has the factories, the workers, the industrial base, the supply chain depth, the refinery systems, the rare earth minerals, the battery manufacturing, the chip foundries, the logistics infrastructure. America can't make cheap clothes, can't make low-cost electronics, can't make bulk appliances, can't make industrial components at scale. Tariffs just expose how dependent the U.S. really is. 2018 to 2019 tariffs proved it. Prices jumped, supply chains strained, U.S. factories didn't reopen. Companies moved from China to Vietnam, not to America. Inflation accelerated. Consumers paid the bill. Tariffs didn't bring jobs back. They just revealed how few jobs remained. Here's the part no one wants to admit. America can't rebuild manufacturing without rebuilding the entire national ecosystem. Factories aren't isolated buildings. They require forests of suppliers, millions of skilled workers, training pipelines, energy infrastructure, transport networks, credit systems, domestic mines, domestic refineries, domestic talent. America didn't lose manufacturing. It dismantled the machinery that creates manufacturing, and you can't fix that with a signature on a tariff bill. For 30 years, Americans were told a fairy tale. Outsourcing saves consumers money. But here's the truth nobody in Washington or Wall Street wants to say. Outsourcing wasn't designed to lower prices. It was designed to raise profits permanently by destroying American labor power. Let's break the lie. Lie number 1, outsourcing lowered prices. Truth, corporations pocketed the savings. A pair of sneakers made for $3 in Vietnam still sells for $160 in America. An iPhone assembled in China for $30 still sells for $1,200. A $12 toaster at Walmart costs pennies to manufacture. Prices didn't collapse. Corporate margins exploded, highest in recorded history. Lie number 2, Americans benefited. Truth, Americans became disposable. Manufacturing wages didn't just fall. They were replaced by part-time retail, gig economy work, debt-driven survival, service jobs with no benefits, $15 per hour modern poverty wages. Meanwhile, corporate profits hit record highs. Lie number 3, outsourcing created global efficiency. Truth, it created global dependence. The U.S. can't build its own semiconductors, can't refine its own rare earth metals, can't produce its own antibiotics. Because outsourcing wasn't efficiency, it was a corporate coup against national independence. America didn't trade jobs for cheaper goods. It traded jobs for corporate stock buybacks. Here's the part no politician will say out loud. U.S. manufacturing didn't die. Wall Street killed it. Not China, not Mexico, not regulation. Wall Street. The crime scene is simple. For 40 years, Wall Street pushed 3 toxic commandments. 1. cut labor or your stock gets punished. 2. Ship production overseas or we downgrade your rating. 3. Buy back your stock instead of investing in factories. This was financial blackmail disguised as shareholder value. Executives weren't rewarded for building great companies. They were rewarded for eliminating workers. The results? U.S. factories closed, 79,000 plus shutdowns since 2000. Manufacturing jobs lost, 5.8 million. CEO compensation increased 1,460%. Worker wages increased 15% in 40 years. Wall Street didn't want strong American factories. It wanted cheap labor, borderless profit, and zero accountability. And it worked. The reason nothing is made in America anymore? Because America's financial elite make more money when it isn't. People say, China stole American manufacturing. That's not true. America handed it over, willingly, with a bow on top. What did China offer? Cheap labor? Sure. But the real weapon was more dangerous. Guaranteed production. Guaranteed loyalty. Guaranteed submission to corporate demands. China told American corporations, we will build anything you want. We will build it to your exact specifications. We will never strike. We will never unionize. We will work 7 days a week. And we will give you government subsidies to lower your costs further. It was an offer Wall Street couldn't refuse. And the U.S. government wasn't just complicit. It encouraged it. Because Washington believes something catastrophically wrong. Economic integration will make China more like us. But China didn't become America. America became dependent on China. Today, 97% of America's antibiotics are made in China. 83% of electronics. 68% of rare earth processing. 90% of solar components. 80% of lithium battery supply chain. 70% of smartphone components. China didn't steal manufacturing. America outsourced its own power. After decades of destruction, the U.S. tried something desperate: tariffs. But tariffs didn't bring manufacturing back. Why? Because tariffs treat a symptom, not the disease. Reason number 1, America no longer had factories to restart. You can't tariff your way into manufacturing recovery when your industrial base is gone, your supply chains are foreign, your engineers moved industries, your workers left sectors that disappeared, your equipment is obsolete, your industrial culture is dead. Tariffs don't rebuild what no longer exists. Reason number 2, corporations were addicted to foreign profit margins. When faced with tariffs, instead of rebuilding factories in America, corporations shifted production from China to Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, Mexico, Malaysia, Indonesia, anything except the United States. Reason number 3, tariffs exposed America's true weakness. America didn't lose manufacturing. It lost the ability to manufacture. That's the real crisis. Not that China produces everything, but that America no longer knows how. For 40 years, Americans were sold a fairy tale. Cheap imports make life better. But here's the truth. Cheap imports didn't save Americans money. Cheap imports made Americans poor. When you replace domestic manufacturing with foreign labor, here's what happens. Wages collapse. Job security disappears. High-paying industries evaporate. Innovation slows. Communities die. And the cheap products, they're not actually cheap. They're subsidized by foreign labor, foreign governments, foreign tax credits, currency manipulation, artificial cost compression, American debt, America outsourced manufacturing, and insourced poverty. And proof? The U.S. now imports 97% of clothing, 92% of electronics, 86% of furniture, 100% of antibiotics, 72% of metal components, 95% of consumer goods sold at Walmart. America didn't become a service economy by evolution. It became one because the financial system made manufacturing unprofitable, on purpose. Cheap imports were not a bargain. They were the bait. While America argued about politics, another war was being fought silently. A currency war. China won. America didn't even show up. Here's how China played the long game. Peg currency artificially low. Make exports unbeatable. Offer tax breaks to manufacturers. Attract foreign companies. Build industrial megacities. Scale manufacturing infinitely. Control raw materials. Set global prices. Buy U.S. debt. Keep America consuming. Use trade surpluses to buy resources globally. Secure long-term dominance. While Washington focused on Wall Street, Beijing focused on factories. While America debated raising the minimum wage, China built supply chains from Africa to Latin America. While America printed money, China printed industrial capacity. Currency manipulation wasn't a side tactic. It was the master plan. And America fell straight into the trap. Debt went up. Imports went up. Deficits went up. Manufacturing went down. Dependency went up. Vulnerability skyrocketed. America didn't lose factories because it couldn't compete. It lost factories because it didn't understand it was being attacked. Not with weapons, with economics. America once controlled the global supply chain. Today, it controls almost none of it. Look at the pillars of modern manufacturing: steel, lithium, rare earths, semiconductors, microchips, pharmaceuticals, machine tools, shipping, energy refining, critical minerals, electronics components. The uncomfortable truth: China controls most of them, not because America is weak, but because America gave up the position willingly. Consider this. China controls 87% of rare earth processing. China controls 80% of solar manufacturing. China dominates global shipbuilding 50-1 over the US. China produces 7 times more steel. China produces 12 times more machine tools. China controls nearly all lithium refining. China manufactures 90% of consumer electronics. America produces almost zero antibiotics. 70% of U.S. factories rely on Chinese inputs. 60% of U.S. factories. Companies depend on China for key components. America can't reshore manufacturing because the building blocks of manufacturing are not controlled by America anymore. You cannot rebuild a house when someone else controls the bricks, the wood, the nails, the tools, and the land under it. The nightmare scenario? A geopolitical rupture cuts supply lines. One disruption, and the American economy stops. Completely. So here we are. A nation that once built everything now builds almost nothing. A nation that once exported strength now imports survival. A nation that once led global industry now outsources it to rivals. The question isn't, can America rebuild manufacturing? The real question is, does America still control the power needed to do it? Power is not flags or speeches. Power is who controls the minerals, who controls the factories, who controls the shipping, who controls the technology, who controls the supply chain, who controls the debt, who controls the currency, who controls the labor force, who controls the infrastructure. America doesn't control those things anymore. And the brutal truth? A country that cannot make its own goods, cannot defend itself, cannot rebuild itself, cannot lead the world. It becomes dependent, and dependency is the first step toward decline. So the final question, the question that defines this century, is not, why is nothing made in America? It is, what happens to a superpower when it no longer makes anything at all? Before you go, don't leave without subscribing. Every week, we uncover the hidden systems behind money, power, and global economics. The stories most people never hear, and the truths nearly everyone misunderstands. If you're watching content like this, you're already ahead of 99% of people. Subscribe now and join the few who actually understand the forces shaping our world. This is MoneyLore Insider, where finance meets mystery.